Hello again, everyone. This is Kevin Johnson of Leverage Consulting, bringing you yet another Resilient Entrepreneur podcast. Each year, I go to the national meeting for the American Association of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgeons, where typically I speak 2 times, have 2 slots. And one of them is one where I talk about building a team and growing the practice as a whole. It's a practice management session, but it is very business related. It's geared towards, again, growing the practice, working with a team, because really a practice is about the people. It has very little to do with the building and location. I mean, all those things are important, but if we don't account for the human factor, really the business is nothing. So the quote that I have on one of the slides is that the culture of the organization is shaped by the worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate. And every year when I read this quote, I start seeing eyebrows raise around the room, and for good reason. And it's something that really I could talk about it monthly, weekly, really, because we're dealing with human beings, and sometimes the change may be us or it may be them. And, in the last year and a half, we've seen a lot of changes happening. Some of it, COVID related, some of it government related, some of it, I've just talked to someone earlier today when we're recording this, found out that they have a reoccurrence of cancer. I know people whose loved ones are in the hospital because of COVID. People are getting pregnant. There's all kinds of stuff. And my point in bringing this up is life changes. Life changes every day. And just because you might fix something, you might set something on the right track, it doesn't mean it's going to be that way forever. And it'll change again because of things that happen in our lives. It will happen because of just time and things get stale. It may happen because of turnover. But it is a super important quote that really, again, the culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate. So think about it. Let's talk about some examples for a minute. One of your team members decides they're just going to come in late 1 or 2 days a week. How do you think that small behavior shapes the rest of the team? What do you think about someone who decides that they're going to make themselves scarce at certain times throughout the day? I can assure you the rest of the team sees it. They see it, and they see right through it. And again, question is, how do you think that shapes and molds the rest of the team? And we could come up with other examples where someone passively resists implementing something that we know is the right thing to do, but for whatever reason, they don't. How does that shape the rest of your team? Because again, in any one of these 3 examples I gave you, and I'm sure that for some of you, you might be able to cite specific examples of all 3 of what I just mentioned. So think about how that shapes the teamwork and behavior of your team. Because when some team members realize someone's getting to come in late, they get mad. They get mad because someone else is not pulling their own weight. They also get mad because something's not being done to fix it. And the last example I gave was, what if someone decides they're going to passively resist implementing something that we should all be doing? That too is one where the team members will get tired of killing themselves to make things happen. But then, again, they're watching and waiting to see what happens. Does this person is there some type of corrective measure? Are they spoke to? Are they sent home? Are they asked to never come back? Are they redeployed to the workforce? What is it? So this is one, and this is something I saw that this was actually a popular phrase or quote that went around for a while, but I firmly believe it. And it is that loyalty is royalty. And it is one that I really believe that any of you could really put on like a sign or something and put it in your lunchroom, put it somewhere in your office. This is one where I really feel like the ownership and leadership, the management of your practice, your business, should almost be in a fight with the team daily in regards to who can provide more value than the other. Because you think about it, even a great marriage is one where both sides are always trying to figure out what they can do to help the other. They're always trying to figure out how to better understand the other. They're always trying to figure out ways to make things better than what they are. That's a great marriage. How could that same thing apply to our team? So again, back to loyalty is royalty. When someone is coming in and they're late frequently, that's not loyalty. When you have someone who is passively resisting doing something, that's not loyalty. That's selfish. It's something that someone is doing for their own interest, or so it could be selfishness, but it could also be it's completely their own interest or discomfort is really the other piece of it. So selfishness or discomfort, sometimes a mix of both. But this loyalty is royalty phrase is something that it's a two-way street, and it is something that both sides should be working to provide more value than the other. And this is another thing that that some people have a tough time getting their head wrapped around. But the cost of turnover alone is anywhere from 20% to 200% of that person's annual compensation. And interestingly enough, I've sat down and done very quick gut math with some clients and how it could impact them. And quite honestly, for some of them, it might be greater than 200% of that person's salary. It really depends on how quickly you can get someone rehired, how quickly you can get that person up to speed, how quickly you can get that person to the same level as a person that left. And when you hire somebody who's brand new, we're talking somebody who comes in with little to no experience with your way of doing things, because you can hire someone who's worked at a different company, same job, but it doesn't mean they know how to do things in your business or your practice. So you really need to really take the time and figure out where you do have your loyalty and where you don't. And interestingly enough, the one thing you'll probably find is that most time is spent on the people who are not loyal. So imagine if we actually flip-flop this thing where you spent more time on the people who were loyal to you and reinvested in them, and also figured out how to make sure that they felt you were also loyal to them. Imagine if that was flip-flopped. Could you imagine in a scenario like that where you would actually have people who are with you for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? I've never met a client who is interested in constantly refilling positions. They know most of my clients, if they were able to never hire another human being again, they were able to hire the right team, set it and forget it, and retire with the same crew, they'd do it. I would do it. But the reality of it is it's not going to happen like that. So what could we do to increase team member retention? Well, again, loyalty is royalty is a two-way street. So the one thing I would tell you to do is sit down, take a lunch hour, take something, go through your team members, figure out where you have loyalty within your group. The ones who are truly loyal, do you really believe they feel the same thing from you? Do they see the same loyalty as a two-way street? And that, again, with the royalty piece of things, we treat people like royalty because they're loyal to us and vice versa. So if you're wanting to know how to decrease stress, increase production, and really enjoy what you do a lot more, consider this exercise. Consider this something that you take very seriously, and think about the daily micro decisions you make regarding things that are shaping the culture and the teamwork within your practice and in your business. And then turn this into something that you really maybe revisit periodically, and monthly, quarterly, something to where you go through your roster and start looking at where we really do have the loyalty within our group. And if we don't have it, what we're going to do to fix that. So that, my friends, is your Resilient Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm sure this one hit home for a number of you. If you're interested, you have questions, you have comments, drop the comments below, drop your questions below, send me a direct message. I'd love to hear from you. I do get those periodically, and sometimes those fuel my podcast. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Stay tuned because I got another few podcasts that are queued up here that I believe you'll enjoy as much or more than this one.